Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Susie, and if you are a returning subscriber, welcome back. Today I'm excited to share my baby meal prep routine with you guys. I'm going to show you how I plan, prep and store nutritious meals for my little one. And for my meal preps, I've just been sticking to purees because that's what I'm comfortable with at the moment. And baby eats with us whatever we're eating, and I've got these specific meals on days where we are eating something that's not really suitable for baby. So yeah, to see how I made all these meals, stay tuned. All right, let's jump into prepping these meals. I always start by washing my fruits and veggies. I like to add a splash of vinegar to the water when soaking them because it helps remove dirt and any bacteria that might be lingering on the surface. It's especially important for me to soak and wash thoroughly because I want to make sure everything is as clean as possible for my baby. Once they've soaked for a few minutes, I give them a good rinse and then I peel and chop. For my fruits today, I'm using apples and pears. These are my baby's absolute favorites. I used to peel them when I first introduced them to her, mainly because I wanted to make sure the texture was really smooth and easy for her to digest. But now that she's a little bit older and more accustomed to the different textures, I leave the skins on for the extra fiber and nutrients. A little tip, mummies, when making fruit purees, I always make sure to balance the amount of apple and pear. While pears are great for digestion, too many can sometimes be a bit too much for baby's tummy. So I use more apples to balance things out. And when introducing new foods, especially in the beginning, I always recommend offering one ingredient at a time. This helps you see how your baby reacts to each new food, and it's a good way to check for any sensitivities. Next, I'm prepping my veggies. Today I'm using sweet potato, carrots and butternut. I like peeling these because the skins can be a bit tough and we want to make sure the texture is nice and soft for the baby. These orange veggies are packed with beta carotene, which is great for eye health, and they are also rich in fiber, vitamin A and C, making them super nutritious for your little one. I'm going to be mixing these together later on, which gives a lovely sweet flavor that my baby really enjoys. For protein, I'm using chicken, which is an excellent source of lean protein and iron, both of which are important for my baby's development. Chicken is also quite mild, so it's easy for her to digest, and she loves it. Instead of just buying chicken breasts, I usually go for a whole chicken. This way, I can use the meat for baby's meals and the rest of the chicken goes into our family dinners. This is a win-win. I also like to boil the chicken with a bit of the bones to create a nutritious chicken broth that I will use later for making gravy. And this adds an extra depth of flavor. So now that everything is peeled and chopped, let's get cooking. This is always the fun part for me because it feels like I'm prepping love and nourishment for my baby. Let's head over to the stove and start cooking up these yummy meals. So I like to cook everything at the same time. This really helps save time, especially when you've got a busy day ahead. I'm not one for meal prepping for hours, so this method works perfectly for me. For my orange veggies, I like to boil carrots because they are a bit tougher, and I steam the sweet potatoes and butternut. Steaming helps preserve more of the nutrients and it keeps the texture softer and sweeter, which my baby really enjoys. For my greens, I'm mixing broccoli and peas. I just pop them into a small saucepan with a little bit of water, not too much though. You don't want to lose the nutrients or end up with mushy veggies. You can also steam the broccoli if you prefer, which works just as well. I like to cook my veggies separately because it allows me to control the texture and flavor better. Plus, it looks so pretty when you serve a colorful variety on a plate, and that's an added bonus. In another saucepan, I've got my apple and pear cooking. I only add a small amount of water here because they retain a lot of their own moisture and you don't want them to end up too watery. I let everything cook while I clean up the sink and get things tidy again. For cooking times, my veggies and fruits usually takes around 10 to 15 minutes to soften, while the chicken would take about 20 to 30 minutes to fully cook and be nice and tender. Cooking for my baby is something I genuinely enjoy. There's just something so special about knowing exactly what's going into her food and that it's fresh and healthy. Plus, I get to experiment with flavors and textures that I know she'll love. It's a little extra effort, but it's so worth it when you see them enjoy what you've made. Now, while everything's cooking, I'm going to finish tidying up. It's great to multitask, especially when you've got little ones, and it makes the whole process feel a lot less overwhelming. Let's check back on the food in a bit. After 15 minutes, I checked on the fruits and veggies and they were nice and tender, perfect for blending. So I started the blending process. First, I blended the apples and pears. I added them into my Vitamix blender, which is super powerful. So blending them for about a minute gets everything really smooth. A high-powered blender like this is great because it ensures the texture is just right for baby. Next, I blended the broccoli. Sometimes I blend half of it and then mash the other half with a fork because texture is so important as baby gets older. Gradually introducing different textures helps with their chewing skills and prepares them for more solid foods. For the sweet potato, carrots and butternut, I used my trusty potato masher. I like mashing these because it keeps some texture and they are already soft after steaming that you don't really need to blend them. At this point, my chicken was ready, so I took it out of the saucepan and put it in a baking dish to cool down. I made sure to save the chicken broth, which is going to be perfect for making the gravy later. Once the chicken had cooled enough to handle, I carefully removed the bones. Please be careful here. Be sure to double check that there are no small bones left. Then I blended the chicken into a rough texture, not too smooth since my baby is older now and can handle a little more texture. I then transferred everything into my storage jars. I love these jars. They come in two sizes, 60 ml and 120 ml. The smaller ones are perfect for fruits and the larger ones are great for complete meals. This is so important because it helps me portion out the right amount for each meal without any waste. And I can easily grab a jar to go. Now let's get started on the gravy. I melted a little bit of butter and added a small amount of flour, letting it cook for a few minutes. This flour is key because it thickens the gravy, giving it a nice smooth texture. Once the flour is cooked, I added some of that chicken broth we saved earlier and whisked it until it thickened up nicely. A quick note here, we don't add salt to baby's food until at least 1 year old. As their kidneys aren't ready at this point, mamas, they are not ready to handle the salt. You could stop here with the gravy if you prefer, but I like to add a little extra flavor since everything else I have made is pretty bland. It's a good opportunity to introduce baby to mild herbs and spices. Some safe options include garlic powder, paprika, and even a bit of thyme and parsley. Just be mindful of allergies and always check with your doctor if you're unsure. I personally love using garlic powder and a pinch of paprika to add some flavor without being overpowering. I let the gravy simmer for a few more minutes until it thickened up, then removed it from the heat. Now it's time to portion everything out into the jars. For the meals, I use the larger jars and for fruits, the smaller jars. After transferring the food into the jars, it's important to let them cool completely before freezing. This prevents ice crystals from forming and keeps the food fresh. I also like to store the meals in the freezer where they can last for up to a month. To thaw, I simply transfer the jar to the fridge the night before or warm it up gently in a bowl of hot water. I recommend labeling your own jars with the date and what's inside, but personally I don't label mine because I use them up pretty quickly and I already know what's inside by just looking. However, if you are prepping a lot at once, I highly recommend labeling. This helps keep everything organized. Hope you really enjoyed this video. We've come to the end of the video. Everything is nicely prepped and I have put everything in these airtight jars and I can refrigerate this for up to 3 months, but because we don't really keep them for that long, I usually use them for maximum 2 weeks because that's how long we keep them in the freezer for, since I tend to reach to them out all the time. So anyways, I hope you really enjoyed this one. If you have enjoyed this one, please do not forget to share the video or comment, a like and subscribe. And if you've got other baby recipes that you'd like to see, leave the comment in the comments somewhere down here below and let me know what you would like to see from me in terms of baby prep. And if you've got other tips on how you do it, let me know in the comments. All right, so I will see you in my next one. Bye.